Welcome to the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Ann Austin, and it is my pleasure to be here again with another amazing professional speaker and someone who is close to my heart, is in the ministry right now, and I am so excited to have her here on the podcast today. So just in case you didn't know, the purpose of the BMWOC podcast is to not only share our industry information, but we are encouraging you, the working professional, to look at the different lines of professions that are going on today and make an informed decision so that you're aware of what you need to do for your career. We are really on fire this year with so many participants that are on this platform. So this is the platform to be if you are looking to promote your small businesses and to share your industry information. So take a moment to visit all the pages and listen to all the podcasts that we have going on. There's so much information I can't even tell you. But first, before we get started, we would like to thank our corporate sponsors and partners, which are Kat Serrano, LLC, Cheryl Wood Empowers, Concern and Learning, Evangelism Radio, Genesis Preferred Solutions, J Coach International, Nels Tax Help, My Financial Home, Power, STCI, and the Student Teacher, along with our other business affiliates and sponsors and participants who is hoping to make this event a success. So tonight we have on our podcast today, Reverend Dr. Joyce Braithwaite, who is the former and founding pastor of Life Changing World Christian Center. She's an ordained reverend back in 1981. She is a native of Brooklyn, New York, and both her parents originated from Augusta, Georgia. Dr. Braithwaite has served diligently in the ministry in human services since a very young age. Her ministerial service and studies include United Foundation for Better Living, where she served 9 years as the only female senior pastor with the United Covenant Churches of Christ under the leadership of Bishop Eric E. Garnes. Dr. Braithwaite is also the founder of the United Christian Fellowship in the Holy Spirit Incorporated. So welcome to the podcast, Reverend Braithwaite. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. I am doing just fantastic.
Okay. Well, tell us about, I know you were in Augusta, Georgia, but tell us a little bit about exactly who you are and how did you get into the industry of ministry?
Oh, wow. Right now, I am also a certified life development coach. I'm a teacher, a speaker, and I'm one of the members of the John Maxwell Leadership Development Team.
Wow, nice.
And I live now in Noonan, Georgia. Both my parents are from Augusta, Georgia, so I kind of came back home, per se. I started out in the ministry. I would like to say I started out in social ministry because I was a social worker in the human services field for many years. I created and developed programs, I researched trends that would promote the quality of life for children and their families. And in doing that, I realized that there was one component that was missing, and that was the spiritual component. Realizing that, we are mental, we are emotional, we are physical, but we're also spiritual beings. So I was also one of the evangelists in my church. And as I began to combine my human services ministry with my Christian ministry, I began to attract whole families. And so I'm so excited because I began my church, the church that I pastored for 19 years. I began that in my home, in my living room, with, I tell this story, with 4 Mary Kay boxes as my pulpit. And that ministry has taken me all over the world. I've had the honor to pray for our former President, Barack Obama. I have received a Lifetime Achievement Award from him. I have traveled to Greece, walking in the footsteps of the Apostle Paul. I did my pilgrimage to the Holy Land. I have done international ministry. So just beginning with 4 Mary Kay boxes in my living room, I found myself being a voice to empower people to begin to look within and find the void that would cause them to experience the many social ills that they were experiencing. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of how I got started as a pastor. And then I began because I believe that each one should teach one. And so as I began to teach and I began to train, more churches came out of the Life Changing Word Christian Center because a lot of the leaders became pastors themselves and elders themselves and counselors, religious counselors or Christian counselors. And so I began to then move into a position of apostle whereby which is my passion now, to empower those who are up and coming in ministry, in business, and in civic leadership to, again, go back to my original passion to promote the quality of life for our people.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you ended it on that note. And first of all, let me just applaud the fact that you have really taken and your purpose and you turned it into a place where you can actually touch people's lives, not just doing just normal ministry, but you actually founded a Christian fellowship so that people can gather and you can touch them in a way that is going to help them not only spiritually, but mentally as well. So my next question is, you mentioned that you really teach people who are in your ministry to minister. And so I wanted you to talk a little bit about just the fundamental facts of just wanting to be a minister, because that is still a profession. You know, even though my family, I have a lot of family members who are in the ministry industry. And it's something that is not really talked about. But there are a lot of people who really feel in their heart that they want to do something regarding ministry. So talk a little bit about how you go about helping them become ministers or any of that area that may be helpful to the people who are listening to this broadcast.
Well, one of the things that I often say when I'm interviewed is that a person must identify the door, and then once they identify the door, they must be willing to turn the knob. And so what I mean by that is ministry, I think all the things that we do is a ministry. Singing is a ministry. Speaking is a ministry. All the things that we do to empower ourselves as well as other people are ministries. And when we are compassionate and we are passionate, when we add compassion and passion together about a particular person or thing or cause, we then have what I would consider the foundational requirement to move forward in that field. Because you have to be passionate about what it is that you want to do. Many people talk about finding their life's purpose, but I'm a believer that your life purpose will find you. And a lot of times people overlook it because the thing that they are the most passionate about is the thing that they don't identify as the door. But when you find something that you're passionate about young girls becoming empowered to know that they can do, be, and have, whatever it is that they want to do, be, and have, that passion connected with compassion, your love for it, that is what you need to go into that particular area. So I would say compassion and passion, to be passionate, is a requirement for ministry. because everything we do is
Mhm.
ministry.
You know, you said something really interesting is that, and this is, I think you kind of hit home for me when you said that a lot of times people look for their life purpose or they trying to figure it out, but the life purpose will find them. I don't think a lot of people see that, you know, and I interact with a lot of life coaches all the time. And we're always talking about, okay, I want people to find their purpose. I want to help them discover it, but it's been there the whole time. It's almost like that parody of, you know, Dorothy, where she's walking around in Oz trying to figure out how she can get home when home was already there, you know. And so, in your professional opinion, why do you think that we just don't see that door and we don't see that knob to turn?
Well, I believe because the spiritual component is often left out of human the human development field. And so, as I was a social worker and I began to look at the social ills and look at things that was plaguing people, I realized that people believe in something. Everybody has some type of belief in something, even if it's just themselves. But how do I access? How do I access that which I believe in and implement it into my life to cause me to be able to become a better person? That's what I found was missing. And I realized that that thing is called my spirit, my real self, the real self. And that is the undercurrent for my purpose. So when I've been trained to overlook the undercurrent, the real of me, then I can't find me because I'm not looking for it within myself. I'm looking for it outside of myself. And so I take my life development coaching very, very serious, and I utilize it to help people to first and foremost identify the roadblock, and then let's see what we need to do to remove the obscurity of your view. Because, as you said, it's there. It's been there all the time. And the more we do that, the more we tap into the real of ourselves. And when we tap into the real of ourselves, we can be the me that we have been created to be. So, so that's why I think we overlook it, because the spiritual or the essence of a person is often left out of the human development arena. And so we highlight the educational piece, which is wonderful, and we highlight the skills and the abilities that we have, which is super fantastic. But we kind of leave the spirit or the essence in the background, and
Hmm.
and that should have equal level. I believe that we are tripartite. We are spirit, soul, and body. So
Hmm.
since we are operating and functioning on three levels at all times, we should be aware of these three levels at all times. Does that
Wow.
answer you?
Yeah, because I just love the way you talked about that we really technically forgot about our spirit. You know, we always talking about, oh, my gut feeling. They don't really call it a spirit. They say, oh, my gut feeling or my conscience. But for me personally, and just speaking for myself, I'm always looking at what my spirit directs me. But a lot of people don't. They just kind of go, like you said, their merry way, and they're trying to find something when it's really within the whole entire time. And I think that that's what also drives a lot of people to want to be life coaches or to seek some type of ministry industry, because they're trying to help people find what you say in their spirit, because we've pretty much forgotten about it. And I think that also affects us emotionally, physically. It affects us on our jobs. It affects us on our business, because we're not really in tune of who we are, like you said, mind, body, and soul. And that's really powerful what you said, and I really appreciate that. So as you were talking about looking at your bio, that you served 9 years as the only female senior pastor in speaking to some of the people who I know in ministry, I know that being a female in that role is kind of difficult sometimes. Can you speak a little bit about your experience of being the senior female pastor at this church and how difficult it was for you to kind of get to that level?
Well, yes, in the particular organization and a lot of other organizations where we are affiliated as pastors, oftentimes being the senior pastor and you are female can be challenging because in the Christian climate, a lot of times it's either couples or it's the male who's the senior pastor. The female might be a pastor, but not the senior pastor. And in my case, I was the senior pastor, the founder of the church that I pastored. And I did not want to be just out here with the church. So I connected and joined to an organization with wonderful leadership, and I learned an awful lot from these more experienced men who were out there as senior pastors. I can say this, and I've been saying for years that Spirit is going to give me a platform to eventually get this across. My challenge was not as much from the men as it was from the women. It amazes me a vocation that the constituents are, I would say, at least 75% female, would still have women on the bottom. That just blows me away every time I think about it. So most of the challenges that I ran into was more so with, unfortunately, my sisters, not so much from my brothers. It could be from the training that we are accustomed to seeing a male in that position, but I was able to move forward. And I believe how I was able to overcome it was because I would often empower my sisters who I saw had the ability within them to come up, to stand up, to not be afraid, to allow the gift that God or the gifts that God had given them to come out, to be more of a, I guess you can say, a forerunner. I put myself in a forerunner position. I'm not here as a threat to you, but I'm here to help to pave the way for you. I'm here to help to open doors so that you can come through. And I think making myself an ally to my sisters in ministry helped me to be able to deal with a lot of the challenges that I had encountered. Also, again, because my passion is for helping and empowering people, women in particular, through my own struggles, I was careful not to allow my pain to be my catalyst, but to, and my platform, but to use it as a light to say, hey, listen, I've made it, you can make it. Yes, it's very challenging. A lot of times you don't get the same respect. I have found in my vocation that remaining feminine was key. Though I am empowering and impactful, but I had to remain very feminine, and that gave me a lot of grace and favor from a lot of brethren.
Well, first of all, let me just thank you for being very candid in that, because again, it's one of those things that people don't really, they rarely talk about that. And it's really important for females or men who want to go into ministry to know how people overcome certain adversities. And certainly this is no different than being in a workplace, and you have, because I had the same thing with females in just the workplace, where, you have your people who don't respect you, or they feel like they're being threatened, and you have to put yourself in a position where you're able to start working with them. So I appreciate you being candid about that. So I want to turn the table over to now about your fellowship, and other than ministry, what other type of services that you provide, that you want people who are listening, so that they can get a sense of what your ministry does, what your fellowship does, and what do you do to help people in that regard.
Well, at this time, I no longer do the day to day pastoring. On Sundays, I do a lecture that is called. It is also a podcast. It is called "We're Moving from Theory to Practice." I tend to believe that a lot of religiosity has placed people in more bondage than freeing them. So I no longer do the day-to-day pastoring. I still continue to empower, and I am an emeritus apostle, I would say, helping others who are up and coming, being a visible role model for those who would like to go into leadership and empowering, and from a spiritual perspective. And so on Sundays, at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I do a podcast. Again, as I said, I'm a certified life development coach. I'm the member of John Maxwell Leadership Development Team. And right now, I'm in the process of finishing my first book. I'm completing that. I am a motivational speaker. I've been asked to speak all over to empower women, empower men, and also one of the newest things that I have done, and it's very dear to me. A few years back, my husband made his transition, and I started groups for widows. And this group is called Breathing Again, and it's a global ministry to widows, and then it extended itself to hurting men and women who are recovering from the loss of love and any type of loss. Through this particular program, I minister healing and hope, and teach people how to strengthen what remains. And that Breathing Again is also on Blog Talk Radio. It's blogtalkradio.com/Table Talk. And it's a weekly blog show. But I also have a few physical widows and divorce and hurting people groups. So I'm really, really excited about that, just teaching people how to pick up the pieces after any type of loss of job, loss of career, loss of a spouse, loss of a best friend, loss of a limb. So I'm passionate about that at this particular time, because after my husband made his transition, I found myself in a new state, the state of Georgia. I wasn't in New York anymore, and I was experiencing loss on many different levels. The loss of my partner of 30 years, the loss of my mother the year before, the loss of community. I was no longer in the same state that I was of New York that I was accustomed to being in, the loss of the physical church because I wasn't there anymore. So I experienced loss on many, many levels, and I wanted to speak to that because I realized, hey, I can't be the only one, and just how do we pick up, or how do we strengthen that which remains, as the Bible says? Strengthen that which remains. How do we focus on who we are now? How do we reinvent ourselves? How do we make the necessary changes to, I often say to people, I am now reacclimated to my new reality. How do we do that?
Yeah.
And so I'm passionate about that. That's what I'm doing now. I do it
Wow.
on a one-on-one basis as a life coach,
Mhm.
as a speaker. I was just with Pink Ladybug Foundation on 2 weeks ago at their breast cancer survivors retreat, speaking to the women there. So this is what I'm doing now, and I'm really excited about it.
Okay.
And my new book
So,
is coming out,
yeah, I
and
was
it's
about to
called
ask you
Breathing
about
Again.
your book. Yeah, I was about to ask you to
Yeah,
talk
it's
about
called
your book. Yeah.
Breathing Again. What do you do when the cares of life take your breath away?
Wow. Wow, so fabulous. So fabulous that you're doing all these wonderful things in your ministry, in your business, and just touching people all over. So, we're coming to the end of this. As you doing this now, what do you need personally to help you do what you're doing?
Well, what I need at this point, I would say more exposure for more people to realize what I'm doing. I have taken the last 2 years. My husband passed 3 years ago. I've taken the last 2 years to reinvent myself because prior to now, I was known as Apostle Braithwaite, and that always connected me to the church, which is fabulous, which is wonderful. But my arms reach so much further than that. As I said, I was blessed to even pray for our former president. Also, I'm a United Nations appointed ambassador. My arms reach so much further than that, that I'm looking for a platform that would help my new identity to be exposed, for Dr. Braithwaite to be known now as an empowerment specialist, one who heals, but not just not from the church or from a religious standpoint, but
Hmm.
understand that we are all spiritual beings, and that I want to take that message to the world, that we are spiritual beings and we all are connected
Hmm.
from that place, and we can heal ourselves, our children, our world, if we realize that we are the creators of our experiences, and so we can change it.
Yeah,
So what
absolutely.
I would need more exposure
Okay.
uh, at this time to be known as Dr. Braithwaite as opposed to Apostle Braithwaite.
Well, I can tell you right now, Dr. Brathwaite, I meeting you for the first time have all since the beginning of this conversation has only seen you as Dr. Brathwaite, really, because I'm just listening to you and you just have such a great wealth of knowledge that anyone will be happy to have at their event. So, people, are you listening to this lady right here? She has, like she said, a arm's reach out there for you to contact her and to give her the opportunity to speak at your events or to come and pray for whoever you need to come pray for, because she is oozing with knowledge right about now that you need to kind of do that. And so I want to thank you again, Dr. Brathwaite, for being on the podcast today. If you could share with everybody how they can contact you so that they can have a direct link to get you on their platform.
Well, thank you again for the opportunity to share. I love when I have the opportunity to share the God in me. So I can be contacted, first of all, through, of course, Facebook as Dr. Joyce Braithwaite. I am on Instagram as Dr. Joyce Braithwaite as well. I have a website called Breathing Again. Wix.com is Breathing Again. Wix.com. I can also be reached in my office at the number, which is 678-850-4154. And that is 678-850-4154. I also have the weekly Blog Talk radio show called blogtalkradio.com/table talk. And you can come any Monday evening at 7:30 p.m. and sit at the table with me, and we can have a safe space to talk. My email address is breathingagain111@gmail.com. And so those are the quickest ways to contact me. I have an office in Georgia and an office in New York City. And this has just been a fantastic opportunity to be able to reach out to everyone and let them know that you can breathe again. You can do it.
That's right. You can do it. And so again, everybody, her contact information, if you didn't catch it in the recording, if you're on iTunes, if you're on SoundCloud, definitely make sure you visit the website to read her full bio and get her contact information that is below. Also, I want to remind everybody to please take a moment to visit all the pages and listen to the podcast and submit your vote for best podcast that's coming up. And also, talk about what you do, be on the platform for 2019. And so I want to end with thank you, Dr. Braithwaite, for coming on here and being so candid and sharing your story. And I am definitely feeling empowered by what you talked about today. And I am definitely going to make sure that I stay really connected to my spirit. So thank you so very much for everything that you shared on this platform today.
Thank you.